Hey everyone, I'm Ricky Barrios, and I'm doing my country specialist project on Puerto Rico. So, to get into the historic roots, starting with the how colonization affected Puerto Rico. So, they were affected greatly by several of these factors. One being the Spanish arrived in the 15th century and established it as an actual Spanish colony. And what this did was it brought many significant cultural and linguistic and societal changes to the island, like the imposition of the Spanish language and Catholicism, which we know are big things in Puerto Rico now. And in terms of independence, from an article I read, it says of all Spanish colonial possession in the Americas, Puerto Rico is the only territory that never gained its independence. So from that, we can just see that yeah, they never gained their independence, and Puerto Rico does remain a U.S. territory with lots of debates and movements ongoing about possibly Puerto Rico being the 51st state of the United States and no longer being a territory. So moving on from that, continuing with historic roots, there are lots of major events that shaped Puerto Rico's country as a whole. One of those things being the Treaty of Paris, which was on July 25th, 1898. And what this did was it marked the end of the Spanish American War. Through this, Spain ceded Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines to the United States. So it's kind of a big deal for Puerto Rico. And the second major event that I put on here was the establishment of Commonwealth of Puerto Rico in 1952. What this did was it granted the island a degree of self-governance while maintaining its territorial status under the United States. So basically what that means is it kind of gave them a little bit more independence and freedom, but they are still a territory under the United States. And lastly, some major events that actually affect the land and the people of the island or all the hurricanes that Puerto Rico has. And I've kind of had an inside deal with this because my family's from Puerto Rico and they've been through lots of hurricanes. And obviously, I'm from Ohio, so it's kind of my family worries about the family that's in Puerto Rico when a hurricane does come, and those hurricanes are very destructive and they happen very often in Puerto Rico. So some big deals that happen there. And on the left, you can see a picture of kind of what it can do to some of the people in the houses on the island. Moving on, so the political and economic situation of Puerto Rico. The history starting with the 1917 Jones Act, which established a popular, popularly elected legislative branch and extended American citizenship to Puerto Rican citizens. So this is a huge deal because of the citizenships, excuse me. So Puerto Ricans are now considered American citizens, which is a huge deal. And Puerto Rico is ultimately subject to U.S. federal laws, and as you're going to see throughout this presentation, that Puerto Rico does take a lot of things from the U.S., being it's a U.S. territory and it's owned by the United States. So, and the form of government you can see here follows the United States. It's a Republican form of government with three branches, just like the United States: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. Um, the difference between the Puerto Rico and the United States here is that the governor of the island serves as the head of the government, and in the United States, obviously, it's the president. So in Puerto Rico, it's the governor, which is a little bit different. The political and economic situation continued. So we're going to go through main imports and exports of Puerto Rico. Some of their main imports are petroleum, chemicals, food, and machinery. That's kind of what they specialize in there, and they create a lot of that on the island. And um, their main exports would be pharmaceuticals, electronics, and medical equipment. Sorry, I got that mixed up. They actually specialize in the exports, which are pharmaceuticals, electronics, and medical equipment, and they have to bring in all the imports that you see there. And they trade with numerous different countries, but the United States being their main, like over 75%, they trade with the United States. And once again, we can see them following suit with the United States. Their currency is the US dollar, and that's their official currency, so they don't use anything else there on the island. Going through identities of Puerto Rico. So some of the predominant and marginalized ethnic groups in Puerto Rico Puerto Rico is primarily inhabited by people of mixed European, African, and Taino indigenous ancestry, and the predominant group being Puerto Rican, obviously, and some marginalized ethnic groups that are on the island are immigrants from other Caribbean islands, as well as indigenous Taino descendants. And some issues we see in Puerto Rico are cultural preservation, language rights, and political representation. They have a lot of things that happen with politics and the government there. They have lots of debates, lots of movements that happen there, and it's just fighting for their rights and preservation of their island. And as you can see, there's lots of debates over the island's political status. There's always movements going on in Puerto Rico. There's always lots of debates. Some trends and challenges we see in Puerto Rico is the major one is the ongoing economic crisis there. Puerto Rico is in a bad spot economically. We see high levels of debt there and lots of population being lost due to migration to the United States because people are moving from Puerto Rico to the U.S. And this downturn in the economic crisis has led to challenges like unemployment, inadequate infrastructure, and social or economic inequality. So we can see how this is a problem. And I put a graph down here. You can see that the bar graph on the right shows Puerto Rican owned businesses in the U.S. So we can see that goes up because Puerto Ricans are moving to the United States. And you can see the middle graph shows a line graph of the labor force participation rate. So as people are moving to the United States from Puerto Rico, the labor force participation rate in Puerto Rico just takes a dip and takes a dive. And as we can see, the manufacturing jobs also takes a dive from Puerto Rico because of the population loss. One aspect of popular culture that's I thought was unique is the bomba dance that originated in Puerto Rico. So it developed in Puerto Rico during the early European colonial period. And this dance was a big deal because it was used by enslaved communities to celebrate life events like baptism and marriages. So, they only do this dance at big events, which you can see is unique and it's part of the popular culture of Puerto Rico. And I put a picture in there of a lady doing the bomba dance. And the three questions that I came up with for you guys to answer was, first one being, what did the establishment of Commonwealth do in Puerto Rico? Second one being, who is considered the head of the government in Puerto Rico? And the third one is, how is Puerto Rico's economic status? Why is it good or why is it bad? Here are my sources, and I thank you for listening to my presentation and hope you enjoyed. Thank you.